Hello everyone, this is Sunny, and I'm coming to you with Savior and Ticci Toby X Reader by Hatsu-Senpai. And we're starting off with Chapter 12. A thick liquid substance dripped onto your bare feet as he laid in the grass. You opened one eye to see Smile at your heels with a large branch between his teeth, drool dripping from his jowls. Gross, Smile, come on, you groaned, and you wiped your foot across his shoulder. He shook himself and dropped the saliva-covered branch by your side and whined. Fine, you sighed. You picked up the stick and chucked it into the forest, sending Smile bounding after it. You fell back on the grass and sighed. You had a particularly tough day of training, and you thought some alone time with the setting sun might calm your nerves. What are you thinking about? A voice called from behind you, and you recognized it instantly as one of your best friends at the mansion, Ben. Nothing in particular. You shrugged as Ben sat down on the grass beside you. Is that code for Toby or something? What? You stammered, your ears growing warm. Why would I be thinking about Toby? You just had that look on your face, Ben chuckled. What look? The I totally want to rip Toby's clothes off look. Do I really? You gasped. You just admitted you think about that. Ben laughed. I most certainly do not, you snapped. I meant, is it really that noticeable? You know that I... Want to make out with Toby? Ben offered. That I like him, you growled. That, yeah, the whole mansion knows. You groaned and buried your face in your knees, partially to hide your crimson cheeks. Ben put his hand on your shoulder and chuckled. Chill out, you aren't the only one in the whole house that knows. What do you mean? Ben stared at you for a moment, as if to ask if you were joking or not, and then he laughed and leaned his chin on the palm of his hand. You really can't tell, can you? Wait a second, I'm confused, you sighed. Can't you just tell me instead of being all cryptic? Nah, Ben smirked. It's more fun this way. Besides, if you don't already know, I can't tell you. That doesn't make any sense, you frowned. It will, he smiled. It will. I hate you. The blonde elfish boy dropped an arm around your shoulder and said, You know you love me. Absolutely not, you declared and crossed your arms. Please, it'll be boring if it's only guys, Jeff begged. Since you'd unarmed him and began your training as Toby's proxy, the two of you have been getting along surprisingly well. Why don't you invite Jane or that octo chick you made out with in my room? Jane hates me and I don't hook up twice. You disgust me, you growled. Yeah, women are objects. I've heard it all before. I'm not calling her because she had her wandering tentacles, he shivered. And you don't? You said with a raised eyebrow. Shut up and play with us, please. Promise to stay out of my room, you bargained. But the draft in there is so comfortable. No one likes drafts. I do, Jeff protested. If you play, I won't come in your room uninvited. How about that? He paused for a moment to think before sighing in defeat. Fine, deal. Time skip. Truth or dare, Ben? Masky asked, grinning behind his mask. Dare, Ben smirked, as if to challenge his masked companion. I dare you to make out with one of Slender's tentacles. Masky chuckled. Ben shrugged without protest and scooted over to Slender. I did not agree to this, Slender groaned. You don't even have to do anything, Ben growled and grabbed one of Slender's wriggling tendrils. Slender held his hand to his temples in annoyance as Ben proceeded to make out with said tentacle. And after the dare had been fulfilled, Slender excused himself to go sanitize his tendrils. Ben scanned the den for his prey, and his red eyes landed on you. A grin slowly twitched its way onto his face as he spoke. Truth or dare, Wyan? You crossed your legs and propped your elbow on your knee, leaning forward as you replied, Dare. I dare you to kiss Toby, he smirked. You stiffened and turned to Toby, who was sitting beside you, and you took a deep breath. Fine, you said calmly. It felt as if you were watching in third person as you grabbed Toby's hoodie and yanked him towards you. He was shocked at first, but slowly relaxed and returned the kiss with more passion. His lips were warm and soft as the seconds ticked by, and it felt like it was only the two of you. That was until Jeff cleared his throat loudly, and the two of you jumped apart, breathing hard. Jesus, Ben laughed. I said kiss him, not eat him. Everyone was staring at you in shock except for Toby, who'd gotten over it and same was grinning now. You felt your whole face burn, and you buried your face in Toby's chest in an attempt to escape their gazes. The room erupted in awes, and you realized you'd only made your situation worse. What did I miss? Slender asked as he appeared on the couch beside Jeff. You're actually just in time, Toby smiled. He pried your face from his chest and took your hand. Ryan, he asked quietly, his cheeks turning pink. Will you be my girlfriend? Silence filled the room as everyone awaited your answer, and you looked down at your fingers locked in Toby's, and you finally realized what Ben had been talking about and smiled. Of course. Chapter 13. Toby and Ryan sitting in a tree, Sally sang gleefully as she twirled around the kitchen island. Kissing. Toby chuckled, grabbing Sally by her waist and lifting her into the air over his shoulder, spinning her in circles as she giggled. You better knock it off, Pipsqueak, Toby grinned. Make me, she laughed. Toby just shrugged and spun her around and out into the living room where he dumped her on the couch. Don't you dare, Sally screamed as Toby wiggled his twitching fingers and drew closer to her. Toby ignored her warnings and began to tickle her, and when she finally agreed to stop singing, Toby released her with the promise of a tea party later. Are you ready? Toby asked as you reclaimed a seat at the island beside you. Ready for what? For some more training, he replied in a dull tone. But I'm so tired, you protested. And I so don't care, Toby smirked. Meet me out back in 10. And with that, he left you. You groaned and hopped to your feet, mumbling under your breath as you went upstairs to retrieve your cleaver and change. And once you were ready, you trotted out into the backyard and searched for Toby. You wandered all the way to the tree line, but he was nowhere in sight. Up here, a familiar voice called, and you looked up to see Toby nimbly perched on a tree limb high above you. What the hell are you doing up there? You shouted. Starting today's lesson, he shouted back. Get your ass up here. Excuse me? Must I repeat myself? Toby sighed. I hate you, you muttered as he began to scale the tree carefully. You ignored the scratches and splinters and pressed on to the top where Toby was observing quietly. It made you nervous that he wasn't saying anything, and your hands began to sweat. You looked up to find you only had a few more large branches to go, and your hands slipped on the semi-smooth tree barks a few times, but you'd managed to clasp a handful of leaves just in time. The worried look on Toby's pale face when he slipped up was oddly satisfying and only encouraged you to prove how able you were. You passed stage 1 with flying colors, Toby grinned once you reached him. Now, let's see how well you adapt to stage 2. Stage 2, you panted. What do I have to do, jump from tree to tree or something? That's exactly what you have to do. You've got to be kidding me. You frowned. This is a very important part of your training. Do you want to be one of us or not? Fine, you replied coolly and wiped your sweaty palms on your jeans. You rolled up your sleeves and extended your arms to your sides as you balanced on a thick branch, and you took careful steps to as far as the limb could support you and scanned the closest tree. You faltered for a moment and cast a nervous look to Toby over your shoulder and asked, What if I fall? You won't. But what if? Just trust me. You took a shaky breath and turned back to the nearest tree, and you analyzed the largest limb and decided to aim for a lower one that could support your weight without a doubt. Taking a deep breath and acting before you could overthink it, you jumped. Wind rushing past your face and whipping your hair. But you didn't scream, and in a matter of seconds you grabbed a hold of the branch and swung your legs up around it. Out of breath, you dropped your hand and hung from the limb upside down. Toby leapt expertly to a branch just above you and extended a hand. You swung yourself up and took it gracefully, letting him pull you up. You leaned into his chest and panted, trying to catch your breath. Are you alright? Toby asked, his breath ruffling your hair. Are you kidding? You laughed. That was awesome. You did pretty well, Toby chuckled, but you need to work on landing, saving energy, and being much quieter. Quieter? You were louder than Ben playing Call of Duty at 2 a.m. But I didn't do horrible, he grinned. You did better than I did my first time, he shrugged. And take that, Rogers, he laughed. Don't be so cocky, he snorted, releasing you and jumping down 2 limbs below and looking up at you. You still have to get back down. Toby Rogers, you better help me, he shouted as you reached the ground. I'll be making some waffles inside if you need me, he waved. You jerk. You screamed after him and slumped against the trunk of the tree. After a few minutes' rest, you made your way back down the tree. Climbing up was much easier than getting down. Twigs and branches snagged your clothes, and you had to turn your head at painfully awkward angles to see where you were going. You planted your feet uneasily on the ground and laughed, feeling overjoyed to be on solid ground again. You examined your cuts and searched for tears in your tears in your jacket until you were satisfied, and you looked up to see Toby smiling down at you with a plate of waffles in his hand. I felt bad, so I made you some too, he smiled. It's 3 p.m. Isn't it a little late for waffles? You giggled. It's never too late for waffles. He scolded and handed you the plate. The two of you plopped down onto the soft grass and ate, laughing and making playful conversation until you were both finished. Toby got to his feet and held his hand out to help you up, and you clasped it, but when Toby tried to pull you up, he lost his footing and fell on top of you. I'm sorry, the grass is kind of slippery, he stammered, a blush creeping onto his face. His nose was inches from yours, and you felt your own face growing hot as well. It's fine, he replied nervously. And for a moment, neither of you moved. You met Toby's eyes and studied them quietly, noticing the way they looked brighter even when he was embarrassed or nervous. He lowered his face even closer to yours, and your lips met. He kissed you softly at first, as if he wasn't sure if you were okay with it, so you leaned your head up slightly to reassure him. He grew more confident with the passing seconds, which felt like hours, and when you broke apart, the two of you were breathless. I'm sorry, Toby whispered, but you cut him off with a laugh. Just shut up, you smiled, and you kissed him again, running your fingers through his wild hair. And this time he seemed more sure of himself, and his mouth worked in sync with yours. He felt warm and tasted like mint with a faint trace of maple syrup. Jack, shield your eyes! Someone shrieked. You and Toby jumped apart, breathing hard and looking flustered. I wish I could, but I don't have any. Jack shuddered. I can never unsee that. Oh, why don't you take it inside or somewhere less public? Jeff snickered. Speak for yourself, I snapped, Mr. Wandering Tentacles. How about we just pretend we never saw anything? Ben suggested, obviously unfazed by the encounter. We came out here to see if you two wanted in on a bet. A bet? You echoed. Yeah, Jeff and I set a friendly wager. Jeff says if we can sneak out tonight and go to a party without Slender noticing, I say we'll get caught in the act. Are you in? Does this mean we have to go to the party too? Toby sighed. Of course, Jeff replied. Does this mean we actually have a choice? You ask. Of course not, Ben laughed. I guess I'm in then, he shrugged, but I think we'll get caught on the way back. Are you willing to bet $20 on that? Jack inquired. Sure, he grinned. But both Jeff and Ben have to pay up if I'm right. You're on, they replied in unison. I'm in too, Toby said. Might as well. You just want to see me in a dress again, you glared. No, I'm also in it for the cash, he grinned evilly. Alright, meet us in the front yard tonight at 10, Jack said. We'll be there. That is the end of those two chapters. The chapter after that one is chapter 14. Let me know how I feel, or let me know how you guys feel about that. And I hope you guys have a lovely day. Until next time, bye-bye.